Hello, mortals. I'm the BookTube Goddess, the #1 drag queen booktuber on YouTube. And I have been tagged by Scientist Reading World to do my first bookish tag. Original tag by Mooney Reads. And the theme around this tag are your first bookish memories. So let's get started.
The first question is, I'll be looking there because my computer is there. What is the first full-length book that you remember reading on your own, not pictures book?
Well, I've mentioned this before, but it is a poem for Mrs. Polifax by Dorothy Gilman. I read it when I believe I was 8 or 9 years old on a camping trip. It was my parents' book, and I had a crush on one of the pictures on the cover, a guy that looked, I thought, like Roddy McDowell. And I remember being very proud that I read an adult book at that time. And Mrs. Polifax is a series of books. I didn't read the first one at that time, but it is basically about a retired woman who decides she wants to be a CIA agent and ends up becoming one through a series of fortunate events, shall we say, at least fortunate for her. And she knows karate and she's a mystery solver, so it's a lot of fun.
Question number 2. What is the first series you remember finishing?
I want to say Lord of the Rings, because I remember reading that in middle school. But around that time, I was also reading a lot of Edgar Rice Burroughs. I loved his Mars Barsoom series. I loved his Elucidator series, which is the At the Earth's Core. And oh, wait a minute, series. Narnia, of course. Narnia, I believe, is the first series that I remember reading and finishing.
Third question is, what is the first book to movie adaptation you remember watching knowing it was a book to movie adaptation?
Oh gosh, that's another hard one. I remember, I don't know if I realized Willy Wonka was actually a book first. Because I saw the movie before I read the book, and I remember being confused that the book was called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I was like, well, what about Willy Wonka? Okay, I'm going a little further in my memory, and I'm wondering if I remember The Animator, which is a horror movie based on Lovecraft, and I was reading Lovecraft at that time. Oh, wait a minute. Horror movies. Okay. Carrie. I want to say Carrie, the Sissy Spacek movie, but the book by Stephen King, horror novel, girl with psychic powers, comes of age, and you probably know the story already.
Question number 4. Who was your first book crush?
Well, there was the picture on the palm for Mrs. Polifax, but going a little further, we were talking about Barsoom. I think I might have had a crush on John Carter, because of course, during that time, I wanted to be Dejah Thoris, his love interest. And by the way, John Carter of Mars was written in the early 1900s. And Edgar Rice Burroughs, the Mars books, were the inspiration for lots of science fiction writers in the classic age of science fiction, including Ray Bradbury, Robert Heinlein, and I believe Asimov even mentioned Burroughs. I'm sure Arthur C. Clarke. There's a lot of people that were inspired by these John Carter books. And I know people looking back at these books see the female characters to be very, very dated. And it's not that different in John Carter, because Dejah Thoris was kind of a damsel in distress through some of these storylines. But she was also, I believe, a very strong woman, at least written at that time period. But if you've read John Carter, let me know in the comments what you think of Dejah Thoris, who is, of course, a princess of Mars.
5. Who was your first bookish friend?
Well, going back to Narnia, I have to say all the Narnia kids, the Pevensies, Lucy, Edmund, Susan, and Peter. I felt they were my friends through reading, and I even liked their cousin, Eustace Scrubb, who we saw on Voyage to the Dawn Treader, who had a great character arc. So, yeah, Narnia children.
Question number 6. What is the first adult book you remember reading not for school?
Well, of course, I already said it, Mrs. Halifax. Let's move on.
Question number 7. Who was your first character role model?
Well, I'm going to say Spock from Star Trek, and I know that's a television series, but I have read some Star Trek books, and I've always loved seeing Spock in print as well as on screen. And I can't tell you how much of a role model Spock was to me. What does that say about me? I don't know. Let's move on.
Question number 8. Who was the first author you were truly inspired by?
I'm going to have to say J.R.R. Tolkien, because once I read Lord of the Rings, it felt like I discovered a new world. It had such an impact on me, and it was one of those books that I kept rereading. My friend and I would write in Dwarven runes to each other. That was J.R.R. Tolkien was a big inspiration.
Question number 9. Where is the first book you remember touching or moving you?
Well, I've said Narnia. That was one of the early books. Just to say something different, I was also very enchanted by A Wrinkle in Time, which I think I read in the 5th grade. Let's move on.
10. What was the first classic you read not for school?
Okay, I don't know how to define classic, but I'm going to say H.G. Wells. And I don't know what order I read his books, but I know The Time Machine had a big impact on me, but I also read War of the Worlds and The Invisible Man. But The Time Machine especially, it didn't really connect to me that it was a classic, but it was certainly an early book I read, and I think holds up even though it was written such a long time ago.
11. What was the first YA book you read?
Well, here's the thing. YA did not exist when I was growing up. YA, in my opinion, is a marketing category, not really a literary genre. But I do remember probably the first one I read, I'm going to say The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. Yeah, I remember hearing so much about that, and I picked it up, and I may have read before then, but there you go.
And the last question is, what was the first ebook you read?
Well, this is easy to find out. I have a Kindle. Looking up on my Kindle library and sorting by date bought. The first book was Victory of Eagles by Naomi Novik in 2008. Now, this is one of her Temeraire novels. Temeraire is a black dragon who lives in an alternate history timeline during the Napoleonic Wars, where there are dragons galore on both sides of the conflict. And I find the series, don't start with Victory of Eagles. Start with the first book in the series, Black Powder Dragon, I think. But they are quick reads, they are fun, they are light reading. They get a little repetitive towards the middle end of the series, but eventually the story concludes. If you like dragons, if you like history, if you like gunpowder mage type settings, you're gonna love the Temeraire books. Okay, now I have to tag a few people. Let's tag Kavi, another drag queen booktuber, also fit to be read. I always am tagging him. He's someone who I wonder what his first reading memories are about. And you know what? I'm going to tag Alexa Dunn. I don't know if she'll see this, but I know she's done 1 or 2 tag videos in the past. I'm curious about her bookish memories. I'm sure you are too, so let's hope that she sees this video. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to hit that notification bell. Until we meet again, may all the books you read be blessed.